To begin with, in order to increase the solidarity between the labor network in South and Southeast Asia, TURC, as a facilitating organization from DGB Bildungswerk Germany, has initiated and hosted several kinds of activities with themes that are always related to the importance of increasing the role and leadership of women and young workers in trade unions, as well as to respond to several labor issues happening at the moment, which brings us to today's topic. Before we begin, I would also like to ask everyone a favor to make this discussion running more smoothly, to keep your microphone muted during the panel session. And whenever you have a questions to the experts that will present today, you shall give your questions to the chat box available. Brothers and sisters, just recently, Indonesia is facing a downfall in democracy. Ignoring the pandemic, ignoring the society's voices, and the Indonesian government passed a law that caused a tremendous chaos here in this country. It is none other than the Omnibus Law and the job creation. Maybe some of you have already heard and know what is the Indonesian Omnibus Law. However, why is this law become very controversial? What is the implication could this do to the workers and the trade unions here in Indonesia as well as in the region? What will change and how it can respond to these situations? Therefore, Trade Union Right Center has presented three experts who will be with us today, who are here with us today, to discuss the Omnibus Law in Indonesia and its implication to the workers and the trade unions. And without further ado, I will introduce you to the experts as well as the moderator for today's session. We already have here with us Mr. Lucky Jani. He is a researcher for the Institute for Strategic Initiatives, as well as a lecturer on public policy in the Faculty of Administrative Science, University of Indonesia. Mr. Lucky has also finished his PhD in Philosophy, Political Science and Government in the Asia Research Centre, Murdoch University, Australia. So, Mr. Lucky will guiding the questions to further discuss about the Omnibus Law in Indonesia. And I will now give the floor to Mr. Lucky. I think, Brother Lucky, we can just start the discussion and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Linda, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon to all. I hope that we are in the good condition this afternoon, and especially during this pandemic time. Linda has already introduced a couple of important development on in Indonesia, politically as well as the economic side. As Dinda mentioned before, that 2 weeks ago, the Indonesian Parliament already enacted the Omnibus Law in order to create investments, create more jobs, as well as in order to navigate the Indonesian economy in the difficult situation as nowadays. The Omnibus Law itself, it's already being discussed in Indonesian ministries, and the Ministry of Economic Affairs, the coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs, has drafted the bill and then passed the bill to the Indonesian Parliament back in April, and the discussion was limited with limited consultation, especially with the interested parties such as labor union, environmentalist groups, agriculture groups, and so on and so forth. But then, as this law becomes one of the President Joko Widodo promise during election campaign last year, so the government, in the sense the president, is very much determined to enact this law. As you may follow the Indonesian context, during the past 2 weeks, there were a series of street protests in various cities in Indonesia, not only in capital cities in Jakarta, but spread out in the region as well. And this demonstration emerged from different corners, different groups that think many of their concern, many of their demand has not been accommodated into the debate in the parliament. So the protest is still going on, and beside the street protest, the rally, couple of organizations and networks have been thinking to submit this new law into the Constitutional Court to be contested. And although we have not seen any groups or organization submitted their objections formally to the Constitutional Court, but this idea has been around and has been discussed by various organizations. So without further ado, I think this afternoon we will discuss particularly the we call here cluster Indonesia, because this omnibus law consists of at least 9 different clusters. But this afternoon, probably we're gonna focus on discussing the cluster that related to labor and labor protection in Indonesia. So as Brother Kotang mentioned before, that now I will give the floor to our representative from labor union, Ka Eli or Sister Eri. Floor is yours.
Masih di mute, Kak? Masih di mute?
Yeah, please unmute. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Terima kasih, Pak. Thank you, Dinda. So apologize about my English because I'm not really good in English, but I try my best. Actually, I fully agree what Pak Luki said in the previous statement, that right now many protesters still continue and also already start since 6 until now, and will be continue again and again after something like miracle happen in Indonesia about this omnibus law. I have to say that when the issue of omnibus law already spread in Indonesia, then suddenly trade union had a reaction about why they didn't involve the stakeholder to discuss about this process, like public involved, like trade union and also civil society. And then after that, we said that will be organized big demonstration during the COVID at that time, last April. But President Jokowi invite us to come. The 3 biggest confederation here in Indonesia invited by President Jokowi at that time, and he asked us what happened, why you refuse this omnibus bill, and we explained everything why Parliament and also government still continue like in hurry to discuss about this bill, because you understand that the situation is not really good for us to establish new bill right now, because amid the COVID, and also we're facing big problem about the too many workers laid off, also dismissed. And then Jokowi said, for my understanding, that Parliament and also another ministry informed the union there, but we said no, only like they mentioned it, but just formalize legitimation, not really invite us. And suddenly today's letter, Jokowi said and mentioned in television that the omnibus for job creation for this, I don't know in English, ketenagakerjaan, employment, yeah, cluster will be discussed in the end. And suddenly we try to calm down, but we saw at the time Parliament still continue without respect what President Jokowi said at the time. And then, yes, of course, suddenly ministry invite us, some confederation at the time, but our friend choose another way, another strategy. They didn't want to inform at the time, because they see it's not really good to stay there just for legitimize, just formal, just make trade union there, just to make people will say, oh, okay, they already involved with the process, so it is really good. And they choose another strategy and refuse to join the team. And my confederation, including three other confederation, also stay there to sitting together with the tripartite government and also employer association and also chamber. Yes, of course, at the time we discuss, we debate, because what I understand about the social dialogue, it's not really you have to win everything, but at least from the 8 or 7 we proposed at the time, we believe that the tripartite will bring the new draft to change the previous draft already gave to the parliament. Unfortunately, I called ministry many times to asking them, before you give it the draft, the new draft to parliament, please give it to us, because we already joined in the team. So we knows everything, what happened, what's the content. Is it true they changed the draft like previous draft, and also change because we already joined them, import them? Unfortunately, until the law enacted or has been passed, we didn't get it at all. So we don't understand what's the content. And also the very nightmare for us when Parliament enacted the law, we didn't see even 10% what we already fight for during the tripartite meeting. So I think that government and also employer just using us to sitting with them just to make us as a list, and then if that is the proof to the people outside that trade union already joined the process. And another issue, until now we never get the original draft what already Parliament gave to President Jokowi, because actually we got more than 2 different draft until now, and then we still criticize about the very big points like contract and also outsourcing, severance pay, and sectoral minimum wage. So maybe this is for now, but my confederation finally decide also we will not join to discuss anymore about the government regulation because they already start from yesterday, because we now prepare about the judicial review the first one like formal, I don't know, formal, gugatan formal apa, Otang?
submit.
Second?
The formal process.
Yeah, formal process and also materi, yeah. So that is now we prepare, but we are still waiting for about the number from President, because we understand that even though Jokowi doesn't want to sign the law, it will be implementing soon after 30 days. So maybe that's I can explain now, because I still here with you. We can still discuss deeper about this. Thank you, Pak. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ellie.
Thank you very much, Sister Ellie, for brief presentation. Discuss about the limited process that a couple of or several confederations has been invited, but then in the end, these unions they do not understand whether some of their demands, some of their objection has been accommodated into the
Yeah.
bill, and what she said that even until now, the union itself they do not receive the final and the formal law that has been passed by the parliament to the president. According to Sister Ellie, that her confederation now will focus on drafting an objection to the Constitutional Court for judicial review, and her confederation would not be involved in further discussion in order to formulate the government regulation as instructed by the law. Okay. Now let me turn to Brother Enrico Otang. I'm sorry, before I forgot to introduce Sister Ellie background properly. At the moment, she's the president of the Konfederasi Serikat Buruh Seluruh Indonesia, or KSBSI, and she's been involved in labor movement, labor union since 1994, and she has been chaired in the various executive positions within the federation and confederation. Now let us hear from Brother Enrico Kotang. Let me introduce his background briefly, even though I think most of you here already know Otang very well. Otang is currently the Executive Director of the Trade Union Rights Center, TURC, since January 2016. She's been with the TURC for almost 10 years, and aside from being the Executive Director of TURC, Otang is also involved in many advocacy works in relation to the labor issues. Since early 2010, she was also involved in the creation of the Indonesian social welfare scheme for the health and for the labor. Now I turn the floor to you, Bro Otang.
Yeah. Thank you, Brother Lucky, for the kind introduction, for your kind introductions. Hi, everyone. It's an honor for me to participate this event and share about the Indonesian's Omnibus Bill. This is the hottest issue for Indonesia at the moment regarding the controversial, but maybe we need to explain further about what is actually the Indonesian's Omnibus Bill. Omnibus bill is for the first time is initiated by the government, initiated by the President Jokowi, and for the first time the President mentions about the omnibus bill when he was speech after he re-elected for the second phase as a president. And he mentions that one of the biggest challenges for Indonesians at the moment to be more competitive in the regional or in the global is related to the hyper regulations in the Indonesian. So many regulations are crash each other, and that is why one of the proposal for the government is deregulated some provisions in Indonesia. And the second reasons for the government is the level of the global competitiveness in Indonesia, that we are still difficult to compete with the other countries, such as Vietnam, for example. Many investors from China decided to invest in Vietnam rather than to Indonesia, and the government asking why, and there are a lot of hypotheses by the government, and one of the targeted is they assume the labor regulations in Indonesia is too restricted for the investor, for the foreign investor. So that is why they use omnibus bill as the scheme or the mechanism to deregulate several laws into one laws. And the precedence of the omnibus is already exist, for example, in several countries, like in Australia, such as in Australia, such as in United States, and the governments of Indonesia refer to that countries actually. So that is why there are 11, more or less 9 cluster in the omnibus bill. One of the clusters is talking about the employment, and this law is not replacing the existing law, the existing employment law. This is the thing that we need to know. They just change some provisions in the existing labor regulations. For examples, like the minimum wage issue, contractual issue, outsourcing, working hours, severance payment, and the foreign workers. So we identified there are and the latest one is about the social security. So we identified there are at least 7 major issues in the existing labor law has been changed in the omnibus bill. And why it is so controversial from the perspective of Indonesian State Union, because the unions believe that the proposed standard from the government related to the protections of the workers in terms of job security, minimum wage setting, and others benefit is lower than the existing labor law. For example, the proposed change to the minimum wage settings have the potential to reduce the workers' wage almost 40%, because they want to change the scheme from the district minimum wage to the provincial minimum wage. And if we refer to the existing minimum wage mechanism systems, the differential between the provincial minimum wage and the district minimum wage is more or less around 30 up to 40%. So if the government apply the provincial minimum wage next year, for example, then it would be a question for the workers. rather whether they will receive lower than the previous year, or what they will get, actually what the workers will get for the next year. It's still in the gray area. We don't know yet about because the government said it would depends on the governor. Uh, Depends on the governor, because the governor decided the minimum wage. So one thing that we concern is, although the regulations, the presence, the legal compliance of the employers and the law enforcement towards the fulfillment of the workers' rights according to the existing labor law is still low. Why this is so important for the workers, because to be struggled, because at least for the interest for the workers and the trade unions, if the law says that it is the rights of the workers, then they can still post a challenge to the employers to obey it by using the legal mechanism. But if the standard of the law are lower than the existing labor law, they don't have any legal mechanisms to challenge the employers to obey the regulations. For example, in the omnibus bill, there's no responsibility for the employers anymore in the existing to change the status of the workers from the contractual to be permanent. From the existing labor law, they regulated the responsibility for the workers. After 5 years contract, they have to change to be a permanent. But recently, to the omnibus bill, they abolished this kind of regulation. Means that the employers, the workers, they can work 20 years, 30 years as a contract workers. So as we know together, that there's a different treatment and benefit between the permanent, the contract, and the outsource. So we believe that the situations in the Indonesian's omnibus bill is create more discriminations among the workers. And the second thing is, it's about the severance payment. Even though the government are still put it the regulations related to the severance payment, the issue related to the severance payment is first, the number of the severance payment that if we compare with the existing regulation is lower than the previous one. The previous one, the workers maximums can get 32 32 months wage after they're working for at least 24 years. But with the with the newest one in the omnibus bill, maximums they can only get 19 months of wages after they're dismissed by the employers. So the second issue related to the severance payment is, if we relate the issue of the severance payment and the contractual workers, we believe that it would be difficult for the workers to access the severance payment, because according to the law, severance payment is a compensation for the workers who got dismissed, especially it is the permanent workers. If they are not a permanent, they cannot access the severance payment then. So that's the issue. Means after the workers working 20 years, 30 years, they they get dismissed or retired, they won't get anything after they work a long time of period. So and the contractual workers related to the empiric situations in Indonesia, it would bring an impact towards the freedom of association. Why? Because we learn and we observe that the workers who are working under the contractual, the trend is they're quite afraid to join the trade union because there is no they prefer to choose their job security. They hope that the employers can continue their contract if they don't join the trade union. So it would bring an impact towards the union density in Indonesia. As we know, the union density is in Indonesia is declining almost 1 million workers since the past 10 years. So if the omnibus bill is passed and there is no permanent workers, the working employments mostly under the contractual, we believe that maybe the existence of the trade union in Indonesia would be threatened in the future, the near future. So means that the labor movement in Indonesia would be, would be weakened by the omnibus bill. So related to the issue of genders, what is the perspective of the impact towards the genders? One of the issues that mentioning in the omnibus bill is related to the working hours and the overtime issues. The overtime is increasing from 3 hours into 4 hours at the moment in a day. So in general, workers in the manufacturing industry, especially garment, textile, and shoes, they must work overtime every day, almost every day, due to the high production target. So, and if the provisions are implemented, working hours for women will be more or less, we estimated around 14 hours per day, with the calculations of 12 hours work in the factories, plus 2 hours of commuting to and from work. And as we know, one of the main challenges women workers face is a double burden of work at the workplace and the domestic work. The increasing in working hours will have a detrimental effect on the physical and mental health of the women workers, and increasing the potential for domestic violence. So, and we assume that it will also likely decrease the productivity at work. So that is why it's important for the trade union and the labor movement in Indonesia are keep influencing and challenging the idea of the government Indonesia to the omnibus bill, because we are a bit reluctant whether omnibus bill would be you know would be the best solutions for Indonesia's economic at this moment. I think this is the beginning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kotang, for your explanation on a couple of important topics or important factors that has been changed in the new omnibus law compared to the previous labor law. I would not repeat what Otang has already mentioned, but one or two important aspect is that related to the minimum wage, the severance payment, the employment status, the overtime increased, and at the end, these changes would have a direct impact to the existence of the labor union in Indonesia, in particular, and the democratization in Indonesia in general. Now I invite colleagues here. If you have questions or clarifications for Sister Ellie and for Brother Otang. And we can discuss until around what time, Dinda? We have time for another 1 hour?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe if there is a time for Brother Kanan, who is also here with us, which I believe that India is also facing similar situations related to the labor law reform. Just recently, we had a short talk about this. Maybe Brother Kanan, you can give some highlights about what's going on that maybe we can learn from the Indian labor movement just recently.
Yes. Yes. Please unmute your microphone.
Right. Thank you very much, Sister Dinda, and thanks to all the speakers. You have given us information about the omnibus. First of all, on behalf of all our colleagues, comrades from India and the whole of South Asia, we are very happy to see the sort of protest that and the strike that you are putting for this, and certainly you can look forward to all our supports. Thank you. So I was just looking at the omnibus, and what immediately transpired is this. Right?
Indonesia.
Indonesia. Okay.
And
so take down ONE, and then it is India. So if you look at the omnibus, and then maybe you can see the labor codes. It's nothing, just sort of a repetition of what's happening in India. I think basically when you look at it, it is global phenomenon that is happening. Like whatever is happened in one country, that is also happening in many parts of the world. So when I first looked at it some maybe 2 decades before, when we were looking at the privatization issues that came in, basically after 1990s. So in India started doing the economic changes and all that. So there was one of this ADB, Asian Development Bank, was promoting the privatization, and in that it was supporting to a state government for the electricity, right, in the electricity sector for that. And you know that loan agreement, it is 300, 400 pages of agreements and everything was there. And we were looking at it, and suddenly in just 1-2 pages, we found some new names of the city. So when we looked at the city, then we found out that that is a city in Philippines. So the Asian Development Bank, the consultant, he just took the whole document and changed wherever, like in India in one of the city, so just put it in. So this is basically, this is happening the same in about the omnibus sort of a bill that you are looking at it. So when these few words that came in of the omnibus, then I immediately thought that this is, maybe this is not Indonesia, this is India that's there. The deregulation, right? So that has been happening for many years, and the words that are used by our Prime Minister is the same words, that we should have a global competitiveness and there should be deregulation in the labor laws. This is the specific same words that all every time, right, the government of India is been using this, but then maybe they have a another nomenclature. They always, for everything, they will say ease of doing business. So what we are doing is ease of business doing, right? These are the words, and everywhere and every time we are looking at it. A few, I was just looking at the labor codes. Okay. Before that, let me also give you, a brief about what is done. Like in Indonesia, in India, there are labor laws, close to 45 to 70 national, that is central labor laws are there. More than 100 state laws are there. All are applicable in India. So what they are trying to do, the government is trying to do, or already what they have done is they are consolidating all these laws into 4 codes, right? So there will be 4 codes that will be looking at the whole system, and then what will be like all the laws that are already there, all the labor laws that are there, so they are taken out, and these all come under the 4 codes. And the main 4 codes are: one on the wages, one on social security, one on safety, health and safety, and then the industrial relations. So under all the 4 codes, they are bringing out with the this actually this is not a new thing. So this they tried to do long time back, right? For some years they have been trying to bring it, right? But then pandemic, corona. So that is a good opportunity that is utilized by many of the governments, and India is a forerunner in doing this, the government. So we have been using this pandemic to whatever laws and there are things that are changed. So when the few things I was just looking at the code, specifically the same thing which you have in Indonesia that we are looking at. So what the code they try to do is it's bringing easiness to the employer, right, to float all the legally required social protection for the workers, right? So earlier the law says that there is a stringent penalty for non-contribution of social security and all that to the employer, which basically they have removed all these things, right? So then on the OSH aspect, so all the OSH, they don't even have mentioned that what is the standard. Minimum standard is not mentioned in any of the sort of the code. So what it means that it becomes very much easier for the employers, right, to not fulfill many of these sort of conditionalities, so that the standards and other things they are right. Then one of the very important area is the now there is lots and lots of new areas of work that are going on, like the new industries are coming in. The IT work is in India is one of the big sort of an industry that is there, right? So there are also been a lot of startups and everything and all that. But when we are talking about the industrial relation code, in the codes, none of these have any mention in this sort of a code. So we don't know like what these workers are doing to do that. As usual on the collective bargaining, right? The collective bargaining question, there has been lots and lots of restrictions now. It has been placed by the government on the right to the strike. So there has been a lot of penal sanctions that has been now given to the unions for going on the strike, which was never been there. So earlier the collective bargaining mechanism, right? So now what they have put in, like they have put in new sort of definitions on the dispute settlement and other things and all that, so that it becomes very difficult for the unions to do that. You are also been mentioning about the contractualization and all that. So this is another big issue in the labor codes that we have. But then, so earlier, like the labor laws doesn't mention anything, not much about the labor laws. It is in favor of the labor. But now what they have done is they have come in with the institutionalization of fixed term contracts, right, on the tenure of employment. So what it means is that most of them now they will be going in for the contractualization will be a bit the norm for the day. And also basically most of our unions they use the legal mechanism to win. But what they have now done is that they have put in so much of conditionalities within the thing. Like one of the things is like for the industrial dispute, the limitations. So new things that they have made is becoming more difficult. And the second thing is registration. So registration of trade unions. So they have increased the numbers and all that. In the sense, like the minimum membership and other things they have increased, so it will become much more difficult for them. But when you look at all the new codes and also the omnibus, one striking thing is that they are not having any sort of discussion with the unions. There is no, because as per here, ILO convention has a convention on tripartism, right? So I think if you remember, like it is 144 or something, convention 144. So where it means that they have to have consultation, but this consultation has not happened in India. Yeah, this is the issue, and why this happened is because of the COVID time. The government brought in the parliament session, so none of the parties they wanted to go in for the parliament, but they are forced to go there. So there was an online parliament, sort of, and you can call it an online part of a parliament or something like that, where there was a lot of restrictions were there, and within the period of 10 days, so many bills, so many sort of laws have been passed. And one of this one is just one, but there was another important was on agricultural workers, agriculture and agricultural workers. There was one that came in, and just one day before to the parliament, there was a new bill that came in called FCRA bill, Foreign Contribution Regulatory Authority bill. That means that so nobody can support, like from any international organization cannot support funding, right, to many other parties, including the trade unions and all that. So this was a new sort of a bill that came in and all that. Okay, so let me take 2 more minutes, but then let me say like what the Indian trade unions are doing, because I am sure that Sister Sakshi, Purushothamanji, and Dennis will be giving much more details. But then what the unions are doing is that unions are not keeping it quiet; they are fighting a lot. So one of the things is because of the COVID, so we are not able to, unions are not able to bring in mobilized power, right? So bringing together is not, because it is under law, it is prohibited. More than 5 people cannot be together in any of these. So there is an issue. So what they have, whatever areas of work that has been possible, unions are trying to do that. Okay, so let me give you like one success story that recently that happened. Is there is an now, okay, the government, what they tried to do is they tried 2 things immediately after the pandemic. What they did was, so they asked all the financial institutions, right, financial institutions to fund for many things. But then when we just looked at the first funding that came in, right, the first funding that came was 1 billion euro, US dollars, for a World Bank. This World Bank for the COVID, fighting COVID, and it is supporting the private sector. Basically, the COVID, right? It is all done by the public sort of sector, but then the funding is all through the private sector. So this is one that we found out. Second thing, the government what did was it came in with a new law to privatize the electricity sector, the distribution sector. So they came out with the amendment to the electricity bill. So the last 4 years they were not able to do. They wanted to use during the pandemic to do that, and they came out with the amendment sort of a bill. This is one, but then unions are fighting it. So immediately in one of the state called Uttar Pradesh, where the prime minister's constituency is there, where the chief minister constituency is there. So they wanted to privatize, and they came in with to privatize the whole zone. But all the unions jointly they opposed, and what they did was they cut, like it was a little bit more in a different way they did than the Indian sort of a way of doing it. So what it was like 1-2 full days, like there was no electricity in the for the whole the state and all that. So they have to come and do the negotiation, right? The government had to come, and then the government came with an agreement that they will not privatize. They will not privatize the distribution and then they said not just only this particular city, but the whole of the state. So they have signed there that will be, and then even if there is going to be anything, there will be a consultation with the unions, right? So this is one very positive thing that has come in. So this is again a momentum. This is a momentum. This momentum, if we can bring in, like yeah, so it will be possible to do that. And certainly, like we are there, brothers and sisters of Indonesia, so we are all together with you, and we also seek your support, right, in the fight with all our. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Kanan, for your update on the Indian recent development. I think that there is indeed there are many similarities. Both governments use this pandemic as a momentum, as the opportunity, especially to regularize, to legalize the previously highly contested bills or contested policy. But because this is the right time, without having to do a proper public consultation due to the corona outbreak, so the government and the parliament can then single-handedly enacted those bills. And the second thing that interests to me, at least, is that the similar logic, similar prescription, and a similar instrument used in Indonesia and India in order to facilitate the business sector or businesses that they could operate in less burden and so on and so forth. Again, thank you very much for the update. Now I invite other colleagues here to share their experience or give thoughts for what people organization has been struggling both in Indonesia and in India. Again, I think we need solidarity, regional solidarity, borderless solidarity in order to consolidate our movement.
May I say something, Lucky?
Yes, please.
Yes, Anna
Yes,
here
please.
from IT. Yes, Anna here from ITSCAP. I have 2 points. I was trying to understand the last points made by Enrico about those articles that have been removed, particularly referring to women, those benefits that women get. I don't know. I don't have concrete knowledge about it, but I understand that the implementation of those benefits, for example, the menstrual, maternity, and even severance, has been weak and problematic to start with, because I was trying to understand why, of all so many benefits, they specifically remove those benefits that are for women. That's the first one. The second question is, moving forward, we understand that there's the kind of movement and protests that are happening in Indonesia at the moment. I feel that it's different from before. We understand that there are other non-traditional actors now participating in protests, like students. So I would like to check with you, what has changed in this movement protest activities in terms of the involvement of other non-traditional actors beyond unions. So what helped these non-traditional actors inspire them to join? Did union do something? So because it's really inspiring to see that beyond unions, we are seeing other groups of people participating in something like this. And probably last point is, what do you think unions need to do, and how we can help? We understand what transnational solidarity, but what really is and our unions can do to help the Indonesian colleagues with this struggle? Yeah.
Yeah, anyone? So just to respond the questions, Sisters Anna, regarding the stipulations related to the menstrual leave and the women workers' rights. At the very first draft of the governments that has been submitted to the parliament, it is true that they are trying to change the some provisions related to the women workers' rights. For examples, like they want to remove related to the menstrual leave and yeah, related to the menstrual leave. But the final draft that we receive from the parliament, they are cancelled to remove it. So at the moment, related to the women workers' rights, we are still using the existing labor law, which is law number 13 2003. So one thing that they are still change, trying to they still change in the omnibus bills related to the women workers. It's only related to the working hours and the Sabbath leave. So they want they will change the Sabbath leave. For example, after to related to the existing labor law, after the workers already working for 6 years, they have rights to propose a Sabbath leave for two months, and they remove it in the omnibus bill. And the second thing, why the non traditional actors are really involving to engage in the protests and demonstrations related to the omnibus bill. We observe and analyze there are several factors. First, it's because of the common issue and the common interest from different public actors related to the omnibus bill, because the scope of the omnibus bill is quite large. It's not only talking about the labor and employment, but also talking about the environmental issues, talking about the land issues, and other issues who are really related to the interests of the peoples of Indonesia. So they are believe that they also have an interest related to that. And we also still remember the rapid process, the enactment of the omnibus bill in the parliament are remembering us the process of the enactment, the revisions of the Indonesian's corruption law, which is only 2 weeks, 2 months, yeah, if I remember. They just finished it, the discussion in the parliament, and it's also controversial. And this is the motivations of the non-state traditional actors to keep monitoring and involving to the movement, because they didn't want the previous mistake is happening again in the omnibus bill. And the third reason is we believe is because the factors of the social media. A lot of education and informations related to the omnibus bill are represented. The information are represents in the social media. Everyone can access it, access the information, and a lot of analysis in the social media, and it would be a trigger for the non-state traditional actors are also joining the movement together with the trade union. So that's so far my analysis. Maybe the other colleague like Sister Ellie and Brother Luki can also add some more analysis on it.
May I want to have a follow-up question to Ellie. Ellie, building on what Enrico just said, so I understand that you are collaborating, partnering, working with other non-traditional trade union actors on this one. So have you started working with like environmental groups and other movements who are also participating in movement activities?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, in this issue, we only join with the other biggest confederation here, and also we always continue discussing with OTAM from TURC about this from the past and also for the future about the judicial review. We will sitting together, but we never so far. We never join with the student, also with the from like environment, but only pure from trade union when we go strike, and of course when we sitting together with tripartite also. Government only inviting trade union, but because I fully agree with what Kotang said before that, because this omnibus bill, omnibus law, already capture everything like 11 cluster, and then not only concerned about the employment issue, but everything. That's why maybe students and also other civil society join us. But unfortunately, as you saw on the television and maybe on the video, some also the vandalized and also anarchists is not really come from the union, I think, because till now there is no from workers, from our member still in jail, but we know from the other people. So I fully don't agree when some party or some another elements using this situation like bring something far away from the what workers demands right now. Like maybe you can hear, you can read on the news that say Jokowi will the people asking a president step down. That is not our goals. Our goal only we refuse the omnibus bill, but not really ask or wants president to step down, because we understand that of course the omnibus come from the government, and the what is that, the inventory of the problem should be prepared by parliament, but we understand not really Jokowi create this omnibus bill, but people knows that too many his assistant like ministry, and also they have interest about the situation. That's why we fully understand about the situation. We understand the Joko is not really easy to facing his day lately, because every day always people always come in front of the palace to demand everything. But we hope, because right now the elements, especially from trade union, bring this case to court, to constitutional court, and some also the elements refuse this and asking Jokowi to establish new, like I don't know in English, perpu. Maybe Dinda can explain them. Perpu, pengganti undang-undang. What is that in English?
What is perpu?
Perpu, Pak.
Perpu is just like in interim law that the president by the constitution has a privilege to introduce an interim law due to a certain situation in order to abolish the existing law that has been rejected widely by public. So it's just like temporary law. Before, then after that, the parliament should convene again and formulate a new law.
Yeah, because we understand right now, even though we have a different strategy, but I understand that all the people finally bring to the final destination that they don't want this new bill, this new law. So even though some media, our friend, people outside from international also asking me, Ellie, do you still believe about the constitutional court? Because you know that government just at the pension time for them being 70 years soon before people bring the case, bring the omnibus to judicial review. So, but I answer them like this. Of course, if we have pessimistic about this, we don't want to bring this case anymore. But I think the constitutional court still using their heart to see us, why the people always come to the street, why the workers always come to the street, because there is no justice anymore. We want justice. So maybe that is only our proposal to constitutional court right now. And then we understand about the, you know, how when we welcome to the new bill like omnibus law, because as Kotang said before that, we openly to the globalization, like to investor. So it is like this from my point of view, sovereign of the people versus the market. So I mean, the law is always unpleasant for workers, for us, because business competition force the government to undertake several restructuring to make it competitive for investors. In the global order, developing countries are positioned to accept global rules and agreements, even if they are contrary to national commitments, adapt in domestic to global laws. That is happening right now, markets and regulation. So the rules of the game are like this: open market, open borders, remote protection, increase convenience for investor, and reduce labor costs. So that is, I totally see right now in the new omnibus bill for Indonesia. That is my point of view. Maybe Otang also still can add, but I see like that, like nightmare, but nobody knows what happened with the omnibus, or maybe government see that because we also have a bill corruption KPK. Pak, tolong bantu Pak Laki, ya. Even though people come to the street, yeah.
She mentioned about the anti-corruption commission law just passed October last year.
Yeah. People also come straight like this, like now, this time. But finally, everybody keeps silent. There is no action anymore. Maybe government still waiting for that, but I didn't see it. People will continue to refuse, and people will continue also to come to the street. Yeah, it's like that.
Okay, thank you, Sister Ellie, for your additional explanation. Now, if some colleagues still wanted to share experience or ask some clarification from both Otang and Ellie, you may voice your question.
I would like to ask a questions, both to Brother Otang and Sister Ellie as well. It maybe you can complete to each other contacts. I really interested about the statement of the increasing number of the new kind of job, like the freelancer worker, which maybe leads us to the informalization of work status, which I believe will have an impact in the recruitment strategy of the trade union in the future. Maybe Brother Otang, would you like to explain some more about this freelance worker, which is also being highlighted in the Omnibus Law, the temptations of work flexibility that maybe is somewhat attracting some of the young workers nowadays, and it is more suitable with their working style. As a labor practitioner, do you think that what do you think that we can do to cooperate with this kind of workers? And specifically for Sister Ellie as well, do you have in mind like the new recruitment strategy or the new phase of the trade unions in the future? So the number of the members of trade unions in the future will not be significantly reduced due to the unwanted uh, 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 participations of these kind of workers in the future. Thank you.
Do you want to me first? Okay.
Yes,
So,
Mr. Otang.
Yeah. Regarding the omnibus bill, I can say that it impacting all the working class, not only the manufacturing but also the workers who are working in the, for examples, in the service industry, for examples like the media, advertisings, and digital workers, and so on. But the thing that we need to care of is actually different types of industry have a different typicalities. So, for examples, like in the manufacturing, have a differentiation with the plantation sector industry, or even in digital sector industry. So, what Indonesians needed is actually, let's see, we put it the labor laws and the omnibus bill as an umbrella laws, the general laws, but we need to specify the tip and accommodating the typical of industry by government regulations. That's the idea, because we should aware that, for examples, in the media industry, there are different types of certain of jobs who are not recognized in the labor laws. For examples, like there are, let's say they call it contribution. They don't have any formal contract with the industry, with the company, but in practical they are working for the industry. For examples, like journalists, uh, they are journalists, they are ghost journalists, we call it the contributor. The ghost journalists submitted their article to the journalist to the company, for examples. Or let's say like a home-based workers, they don't working directly with the employers through the intermediaries, then they don't recognize, because the existing labor laws they not clearly mentions about these mechanisms, but the mechanism is exists in the practical. So what we should propose is actually, first we propose the specific regulations in terms of certain industries, and the second is we expand the definitions of, or we reformulate the definitions of the working relationship, because if we refer to the definitions of the working relationship according to the Indonesian's labor law, they just mentions that workers who can receive the rights according to the law, it's only the workers who have an employment contracts. We know that the small medium enterprises sector most of them, they don't provide any contracts to the workers. So that is why the issue of the freelancer, the issue of the digital workers sectors now is rising in Indonesia, because the phenomenon about it is rising. And we can say if the paradigm of the protections or the interventions of the labor law is just for the formal, then we know it would be no inclusive anymore for the total labor force in Indonesia. Because if we refer to the situations at the moment, maybe it just only covered the 55 million workers working in the formal, even though sometimes in the practical, maybe in the eyes they looks like formal, but in the implementations they're not really formal, because they don't have any working contracts. Even though they have working contracts, but they don't have any copy of the contract. So it would bring no yeah it would bring a negative effect, the impact for the workers. So maybe that's the thing that the union and the movement should consider, how we can collaborate more and accommodating the issue of the informalizations to our struggle and fight according to the omnibus bill.
Okay. Yes, Indira, please.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions actually. But first of all, let me just say that as a young worker in a developing country in Asia, I feel extremely disheartened that our countries are going on the sly. Our governments are not answerable to us, but they are only answerable to domestic and global financial capital. That's very, very clear from what both of all three experts here and what Brother Kannan added towards the end, that a lot of these agreements, so to speak, are just copy paste versions of each other. And to think that the vote, our vote, doesn't really make anyone accountable or answerable to us is extremely disheartening. At the same time, the fact that we still have our right to protest, and the way in which Indonesia has consistently, even before COVID, for the past 2 years, been staging protests against this omnibus bill, is really encouraging and inspiring for all of us. So thank you to the speakers for throwing light on this and showing us the real extent to which this will have an impact on Indonesian workers. I think what I did miss a little bit was the impact on informal workers. And if you can just maybe in some lines, both of you can speak about that. The second thing I wanted to say was it was actually a question specifically to Sister Ellie. Because, you know, it seems that this trend of non-permanent workers, no? That's whether India, Indonesia, or any of our Asian countries which are in the rat race to compete with each other, if that is the trend that has been there the past 20 years and possibly will be even more intensified over the next 25 years or so, do you have any strategy to address this? You know, if there will be a lot less permanent workers or no permanent workers at all, then in that case, what is the trade union strategy? Is it that fine, no permanent contracts, it's okay, but at least give benefits to workers, you know, for health and other things? I don't know, this is just a thought, but if there is any thinking about this among Indonesian trade unions, I'd really like to know. The other two things I want to say are just actually a reflection. One is, you know, 3 years ago when I was first in Vietnam, in the first month of my job here, I remember a meeting in which one of these activists told us that there were some NGOs in Vietnam that actively fought for removal of TPP, which was, mandating some labor standards, environment standards, and so on. So in these protests and movements in Indonesia, do you also notice that because there is so many different types of civil society organizations, environment organizations, people's movements, trade unions, of course, and non-trade union labor organizations, which are all a part of it, do you see that you're all on the same page, or are there contentions, and maybe some NGOs don't agree with the demands that trade unions have, which are like, don't remove this protective umbrella of laws that protects our workers. They might say, oh, but you're being conservative. So I would just like to know what is the narrative, what is the discussion, and what are the contentions in the movement. And the last thing is on Kotang's point, where you talked about the double burden for women. It will be 14-hour-long days, which are just work-related 14 hours. Commute to work, as well as the work itself, the burden from home. But I think if there are any notes that we have taken in the last masterclass or the last fireside conversation which we had with our sisters from Bangladesh, we know that women within the trade unions also have a very tough time within the trade unions. So it's not a double burden, it's a triple burden, and that is if women still have the energy left after 14 hours of working to be participatory in the union. And if the union then keeps on squashing them, then that's also something we have to keep thinking about as, as a movement that should be more gender transformative. So it's not really a question. It's just something that occurred to me that, it's never getting easy for women workers, no matter which class of workers they are. So actually, yeah, those are my 2-3 points. But thank you for your inputs.
Okay, thank you very much, Indira, for a couple of your questions. I think I would direct to Sister Ellie first. You have 2 questions. One from Indira in relation to what will the union's strategy in relation to the non-permanent workers. How would you deal with these non-permanent workers one, and how would you protect their rights? And second question is from Tanya. I think she also asked a question for Sister Ellie. It's about the future role of the labor union in Indonesia, given the current structural limits that you face, both due to the new omnibus law, and the second is due to perhaps the more more relaxed labor regulation.
Yeah, thank you, Pak. So for Sister Indira, yeah, I see the dignity for the non-permanent workers is totally different in Indonesia and also in Europe, because in Europe we can see many people there, like from student, they can work for like 2 hours a day, but they paid higher than permanent, yeah, something like that. So I think for the future, we will make like this. This is maybe a strategy, but still need to improve the capacity to discuss about this to the employer directly, and also put on the collective bargaining, like the permanent workers should be covered by social security, and also they have to pay like higher than permanent, because there is no certainty their future anymore. But this is not easy, I think. Even based on your question, I didn't prepare my answer. Maybe Kotang will help me to answer this part. But the strategy for permanent workers is not really easy create to establish, because if I don't if I can say, maybe Kotang can also explain if I'm wrong, there is no like article or law especially to protect of those workers who work in informal. So that is also still continue to fight for, because I didn't see it right now. Of course, in our organization, we organize the permanent workers, and some of them succeed to be covered by the social security, but much of them also still continue to fight for, because it's not really easy to give it them to cover by the social security. That is my answer for you. Kotang, please help me to continue to explain more, and to Dinda the strategy for the future. Of course, I can say also it's not easy. Nothing is easy, especially with the impact of COVID right now, and also the omnibus law. You know the content of the law is really degraded the workers' right, and also we facing industry 4.0. Indeed, right now we need social dialogue to create a common strategy. So workers' organization still exist and also have members, offer solution, and also can provide ideas to the employer, to the government, because otherwise the union members will disappear soon, and the labor unions also will disappear, because you also know right now we have 16 confederation, but the workers join union only more or less 3 million from the total 47 million. So we need a new strategy that, like internationally said, in International Trade Union Confederation has called for the need for a new social contract to solve problems, especially in social security, and involve other civil society, employer, government, like financial institution, everything, to make our dream will be happen. It is not maybe cannot give you the perfect answer, but we need to think deep more about what is for the future. Because if you asking me directly, I can say I feel pessimistic about the union movement for the future, because you already see now what happened with the confederation is not really powerful, because we less member, and then will be less member again and again, because many workers, too much worker dismissed and also laid off, and also they will facing new law. So everything will be changing in the future. We call climate change, but the union also will adapt for the new bill, for the new law, so we can survive. Otherwise, we will disappear if we can prepare, if we not prepare our new strategy to welcome the new bill and also the new challenging in the future. So yeah, that's from me.
Thank you.
Sister Ellie, how about the question from Tanya about the future role of the labor union in Indonesia?
I already said, Pak, that the role of the union is the one who can prepare themselves as a solving problem, not bring the problem. Because I understand if only my confederation goes to street, demand the government against the employer without other elements support us or sitting with us to make a social dialogue, sitting together and offering them what we want to show, what we have to do, and also we have to listen what is their need from us. So it's called like win-win solution. That's why I said our international affiliation also call like social contract. That's mean my confederation and Kotang and employer association, chamber and government, civil society will sitting together to create, to establish, to design about the future of the labor union and also the workers future, workers for the future.
Okay, thank you for your additional explanation. Otang, you want to add some more?
Especially related to the questions on the informal sectors. Yeah, unfortunately, we know that the existing labor law are not so accommodating on the informal sectors, as well as the Indonesian's omnibus bill. So when we are still in the process of discussions between the parliament and the government, in several moments, we try to discuss with the Indonesian's trade union, with the several trade union confederations, to talking about the opportunity to influencing some articles, propose some articles under the Indonesian's omnibus bill, but it's not difficult. It's not an easy task because most of them are already rejected the law and also criticize with the law, and also there are some rejections from the not rejections but reluctance from the ministries related to covering the informal sectors, because we have they argue that we have different types of informal sectors, how we can cover that kind different types of informal sectors into the law. So that's the argumentations. One thing that we are still can do is actually again consolidating between the trade union and also the informal workers groups, because at the moment only trade union can bring the voice of the informal sectors in the formal tripartite forum, because the discussion is there. The discussions in the tripartite forum. It's difficult for the informal workers groups to bring the voice, speak up, keep up to mentioning about their rights. One of the good example about the informal workers groups in Indonesia, maybe it's only one, which is the group or the national network for the domestic workers. The movement are quite big in Indonesia, and they have a strong support from the other civil society organizations and activists, let's say. But they demand, they want to push the specific law in terms of domestic workers. But again, after the 14 years struggle, up to this moment, it's still difficult to convince the parliament to enactment the domestic workers law. So it would bring, we assume that we believe that we should to collaborate and moving together between the trade union who are mostly organizing workers in the formal, but also collaborate with the informal workers groups, and we have to find this common interest on it, because we saw the trend that if we cannot find the common interest between those groups, it would bring a difficult to put it the issue as a priority. So that is why we need to reconsider the importance of talking about the informalizations of work at this stage in the current situations according to the omnibus bill, because yeah, the flexibility of labor market are we are facing in this moment further. So I think it would bring it would it would be so relevant for the trade union are talking and struggling about these issues, because later on, maybe if related to the Dinda's questions about the union strategy to keep organizing workers and so on, yeah, we have to change the method, we have to change the strategy, we have to change the focus. Before we just focus in the factories, but later on maybe we have to focus not only in the factories but also in the other sectors, for example, like in small medium enterprises, because the trend is changing later on, but we have to be considering how to scaling up our organizing method to reach out the more membership for the trade union. Yeah, that's my point of view related to this. It's yeah, I agree with Kael. It's not an easy way, but I think we have to rethinking at the moment how to keep union and labor movement exist in Indonesia after the omnibus bill is exist, because as an state democracy actors, the existence of the trade union are still relevant. Is that true, Pak Luki? Maybe you can give your analysis about it.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Kotang. Okay, we still have 15 minutes to go. May I invite other colleagues? Yes.
Hi, I'm Sakshi from BWI. Thank you to the speakers for sharing about the omnibus bill. And like Brother Kanan mentioned, I would just like to add on the trade union response to the current situation which is happening in India. So we have planned a major nationwide strike on 26 November, and so all central trade unions and unions have called upon formal workers, informal workers, working class, non-working people, everybody to come and take part in the strikes to prepare for the future, how we'll go again. So that has been one of the development, and we are working on that. So just wanted to update on this thing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sakshi.
I want to share something.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Brother Luki, and all discussants. Actually, my compliments and regards to all. It is very great learning for us, as our government has decided to amend the labor law, which was amended in 2018, and very recent government formed a tripartite committee on 11th October this month. So I want to congratulate our Indonesian colleagues who are in the street and protesting, and we have solidarity to them. Actually, our governments in the region are all are same. They are very much eager for their development, growth, and business. Actually, they don't think over the poor people, the citizen as a whole. Why the labor law? Labor law is for peaceful, harmonious industrial relation, ensure social justice, equality, etc. But when our government we have ratified ILO Convention 144. We have a tripartite consultative committee, and always government call the trade union to formulate recommendation when they goes for amend. But our recommendation did not accept by the government. Very few they accept our recommendation. This time, when on last week they formed the tripartite committee. We'll try to our best to prepare the recommendation not only based on this existing labor law. We'll try to include the informal sector. As you know, in our country, the only 20% labor coverage by the labor law. Most of the sectors is outside of the labor law, as the number of informal sector is very big here. So we'll try to incorporate the informal sectors, and also like Indonesia and other countries in the region, we have contractual and other forms of workers. They don't have any legal coverage, and we'll emphasis on these issues. And another thing, during the COVID-19, we found the severe problem of the informal sector. So we'll try to include social security in the labor law, as in the labor law there is nothing in the social security, and as though we have some social security scheme here. And you may know that the very recent the violation against women is very high. Rape, gang rape, and killing after rape is very increasing. So we will also try to include these issues in the labor law. In our labor law, there is a clause only where the labor law says that nobody can harass women in the workplace, but there is nothing defined what is harassment and violence. So though we have a court verdict in 2019, according to the court verdict, the court says that every workplace and educational institute follow the verdict when, as we don't have any law, when it will be treated as a law. We'll try to accommodate this. But this session is very much helpful for me, and I'll share with our colleagues that what is happening in Indonesia and in the laws, and what our brothers and sisters are doing, and our two discussions explain the labor law, and also our brother Kanon, he explained the India's labor law. We are very much happy that there is a very great victory from our Indian colleagues on the electricity sector, and it is also very much helpful for us to, you in our country, it is very difficult to go for protest. It is very much restricted, but we, the trade union, we have to identify some other strategy during COVID-19, considering the social distancing and other. Our political platform of trade union, it is Shramik Kormochari Oikko Porishod. It is SCOP, Shramik Kormochari Oikko Porishod. They have a convention last month, and they are organizing some meetings in all over the country, and they are very much very much concerned with the issues. So we hope that considering the omnibus law of Indonesian workers, we will try to get experience from you people, and we seek your solidarity support. It is very much important for us, as we all are working for the workers, and always workers are always victimized, and the government and always with the employers group, they are hungry for growth and development, and we are hungry for peace and bread. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Sister Kohinoor, for your warm support and solidarity call for not only for Indonesian but also for Indian and Asian regions. And I think your last statement is very important, that we hungry for peace and bread. I think that would conclude our session this afternoon. We have been discussing about the recent development on workers' status in Indonesia, especially after the enactment of the Omnibus Law, and from experience, the experience from other countries like India and so on, had told us that there are similarities, there are same commitment by government, but unfortunately it is not to protect the well-being of the worker, but instead to protect the growth of the capitalist. And I think I would like to thank our speakers for this afternoon, Brother Otang and Sister Ellie. Yes, Dinda, you have.
Sorry, I'm very sorry to interrupt, but I just saw the last question coming from Brother Dom from ITUCAP. Maybe in that respect, we can also having a closing statement from you, and to also answer the very last questions from Brother Dom, if you don't mind. I think it's about the respect of solidarity will be useful for the Indonesian unions and the workers.
So for my personal point of view, we heard that the trade unions for the labor movement, we got some support from the international union organizations like ITUC or Global Union Federations are also give their support to sending the letters to the Indonesian government. But as far as I understood now, in the Indonesian government, it's like quite sensitive with the interventions of the foreigners. So they just like reluctant. They have already template format to respond all the letters from the international organization, because I know that there are several union international organizations, that union organization, as well as of several MSI, multi-stakeholders initiative, that also support for the Indonesian labor movement. The government just standing with their stance point. Nothing's different, nothing's changed, but all the international support and solidarity are most respectful for the labor movement. It is impact. It's bringing significant impact or not. we cannot guarantee yet at the moment, because the standpoint of the Indonesian government are quite strong at the moment. They really believe that the omnibus bill is the key solutions to respond to the Indonesians' current economic situations, especially in the midst of the pandemic COVID-19. So, but we are really open and glad if the international solidarity support to the Indonesian labor movement are received. We can receive all the solidarity support from the others organizations, and all the support is kindly respectful, and we will distribute it to the members and to also the network, that the key message of the support is we are not standing alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kotang, for the final remark from you. So let me thank again for you and Sister Ellie for sharing the recent development in Indonesia, and also for make us understand that the Indonesian Labor Union and the democracy activists is still struggling to meet justice and equitable end. Thank you also for brothers and sisters, Sister Indira, Sister Anna, Sister Kohinor, and Saksi, as well as Tanya, for your question and sharing your sympathy and solidarity for us, and also to Brother Dom. I would like to remind you that not only in Indonesia that the people protest for more just and equitable condition, but also in Bangkok at the moment, students are also protesting there, and also many other parts in the world. So let us conclude our session this afternoon, and let us go hand in hand together in solidarity. Back to you, Dinda.
Okay, once again, thank you very much, Brother Lucky, for moderating the session very well. Thank you, Brother Otang, for your super complete and detailed information about the Indonesian omnibus law, and also Sister Ellie for a very inspiring explanations from the trade union side also. Me personally realized that it is still a long and worth it struggle for us. None of the strategies are fixed. We keep on innovating and iterating everything. But just knowing that the solidarity among the DGB Bildungswerk Asia partners are here with us as an Indonesian labor practitioner, it is very motivating to know that you are all here with us once again. Thank you very much for participating in this very fruitful discussion, I guess. And I really looking forward to have another round of online discussion with all of you. And I believe that we can discuss another interesting topic in the future. And I hope you are looking forward as well to participate. Once again, please keep healthy, take care, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye everyone.
Thank you,
Semuanya.
Pak
You all.
Lucky, Indira, Tanja.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Kak Eli.
All the best to the
Bye-bye.
Indonesian team. Power to you, everyone in Indonesia.
Hashtag
Yeah, thank you
Bye.
so much.
bread and respect.
Peace and bread.
Can we take a picture?
Yes,
Sure.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Let's take a group picture.
Okay. Can everyone please turn on the camera?
Koinurapa, more your face, less your fan.
Okay.
Sakshi.
Nico, where are you?
There she is. Brother Dome and Brother Nico. City, I don't know if City is. Oh, Dennis has left.
Oh, okay then. Just a quick
Anna.
one, okay? 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, one more time, okay? Hang on.
Cepat
1,
Dinda.
2, 3. Okay. I will set the group picture in our WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Anna,
Bye.
Anna, how are you, Anna?